Welcome to hanging out on a Monday. We're going to be talking about a couple of things that's going on in the news, but mainly this WNBA thing. By the way, I've never seen a full WNBA game. I've never seen more than 5 minutes of WNBA highlights in my life, and I'm going to keep it that way. I've seen them. I saw the beginning of an All-Star game once where they went towards the wrong basket. The teams went to the wrong direction. But that is about the extent of my highlights I've seen from the WNBA, other than memes like Sophie Cunningham pointing, and then the other day, this Natasha Cloud character losing her shit on Enos Kanter for being there wearing a shirt, being pro-woman. Look, they still, by the way, haven't been able to define what a woman is, the WNBA. They're still working on that. They're still trying to figure out exactly what's happening. Very difficult for them. Very difficult for them to figure out what a woman is. When you have a lot of, I think, men in disguise in that league already, a lot of players that magically have deeper voices than you, it's tough out there. It's tough to figure out where they are, who they are, and what they identify as. It could be anything. What we do know is that one of my favorite memes of all time, let's see if I have this pulled up. The dildo thrower is back, and I just want to thank the WNBA. They are groundbreaking something, and I will say this: you're allowed to call things gay again. You're allowed to use the insult, calling it gay. I know there was a toss-up on retarded for a while. I think that's been greenlit. But now, thanks to the WNBA, here's the fine women of the WNBA complaining about the dildo thrower.
Y'all lame as fuck. Sorry, mama. And like, in most of these occasions, it's men. And I want you to know that is the gayest thing that you can do. Is to go to a store, a sex shop, buy a dildo, come to a women's game to throw the dildo on the court. That is the gayest shit that I've ever heard. So
actually, you know what's gayer is buying tickets to the WNBA. That's gayer. Who buys tickets to the WNBA? Who's going to these games? I can tell you who's going to the games. It's leftists whose job it is. They believe it's their job as part of the cult to go to WNBA games. They believe that it is their duty to go and learn the players' names and watch the shittiest sports on the face of the planet. That's their big duty. When they aren't at a pro-Palestine protest or they aren't protesting against ICE, they take a break by going and downing as many hot dogs and popcorn as possible at a WNBA game. But I don't want to hear them say XYZ is buying. Y'all going to a... Why does she kind of sound like Shaq? Going to a store to buy a dildo is gay. Now, it's gayer to go to a WNBA game. Buying something on a dare or as a meme. Again, I don't know why you would waste the money. See, that's ultimately the problem. That's where I turn my nose down at these people who are going to troll the WNBA. You know what's better than getting known for throwing a dildo on the court at a WNBA game? Not going to a WNBA game. By the time you put in the time and effort, in economics, it's called opportunity cost. The time and effort you have to put in to go to one location and buy a thing, or even if you're buying it online, buying something and then showing up and then throwing it and then getting tossed out and probably getting some sort of misdemeanor or something for violating an arena, maybe getting banned from an arena. The opportunity cost that you're giving up just isn't worth it. It's funny when you get the players to admit now that we can call things we don't like gay. I'm glad that they've opened that up. Hey, that's gay. Remember when we used to call it as kids back in the day? Everything was gay. Oh, that's gay. Gay. I mean, it was cool up until, I think, Community with, it was still good. What was it, the early 2000s with the Community TV show with Ken Jeong? There's the meme of him calling something gay from the back of the classroom. Nothing about being homosexual. Just calling stuff gay because it's gay. It's the way we grew up. But now, thanks to the WNBA, I believe they've greenlit it. Now, they write the rules, and that's what I've learned so far, is that they write the rules. And this has been the big problem with this Enes Kanter issue, is that they have developed and written the rules. They are the leftists who are controlling cancel culture. And they are the ones who are saying, oh, green light or red light. And they have greenlit calling things gay again. They've also greenlit whatever you want to identify yourself as. You can identify yourself as now, because they've been having meetings for I don't even know how long to identify what a woman is. Now, if you want to know, and this is why it's gay to buy tickets to a WNBA game, these are fans outside of the WNBA game harassing Enes Kanter for showing up, this beautiful woman. He's decided to identify as a woman. He's the #1 draft pick for the WNBA next year. He's announced that he's available for the draft. He's got a lot of these women by a foot, by a couple of pounds, too. It was all muscle. What a strong woman. But this is the outside the WNBA game. He's showing up, again, all language all day long today, so get ready. There's one woman giving him the finger, very bold.
I'm not touching him, I'm just saying.
Again, cussing him out with, he's got a kid there next to him. It's a class act, nothing but class acts here.
I'm not touching him, I'm just saying, fuck you, bitch.
I'm not touching him, I'm just saying F you.
Sorry in the league.
These are the people who go to these games. Why would you buy a ticket to one of these games?
Sorry in the league. Sorry, yeah. You were sorry in the league.
This guy looks like a Democrat socialist there. He looks like one of the people who was at the DSA meeting the other day. They all look like they smell like cat urine.
You were sorry in the league. You wouldn't even do good in this league. You sorry. Sorry. No, you ain't good. You ain't good here. You ain't good here. You got the police with you.
He's finna find a problem.
Man, you'll get
But again, these are the type of people there. These are your violent leftists. That couldn't be a yell. That looks like that shirt's never been washed. But this guy's gonna cuss out Enes Kanter with his holding his child's hand. Cuss out Enes Kanter. What an example. What an example. I mean, it doesn't stop though. And by the way, so he shows up. Enes Kanter shows up to this game wearing a shirt that basically had this on it. This was the design on the shirt. Woman, noun, adult, human, female. Now, he's decided to identify as trans because anyone can identify as any man. He obviously doesn't want men and women's sports, but hey, if you're going to let it happen, WNBA, then Enes Kanter is going to take advantage of it, and he's going to join the league. So he shows up wearing this shirt. Now, if you're triggered by this on a shirt, keep in mind, you just had a father holding the hand of his son, cussing out Enes Kanter. Just saying whatever. They are more offended by this shirt than they are an adult man, father, holding, good for him for being a father, I guess, but not, holding his son's hand and cussing out Enes Kanter. Where are the standards? Where are these standards at? But again, this is from the same crew that supports Lindsey Clancy. They're more offended by this shirt than anything else. And here's the game. And I want to show you this because these are the same women who claim to be victims when somebody yells at them. If you yell at them from the stands, they cry and whine and they say, oh, how dare you, and you disrespect us. Now, Kanter, as far as I know, and all the reporting that came out of this game, Kanter's just sitting in the stands with a shirt on. And people say, oh, well, he stepped up to her when she started yelling. And you'll see this in a second. But he didn't start this. This is a character named Natasha Cloud who apparently celebrated when Charlie Kirk was shot, murdered. But here's this character at halftime. Can't keep it to themselves. Can't stay calm. Can't keep it to themselves. Can't handle any criticism. Are upset that Enes Kanter is much more popular than they are. The guy hasn't played once. I mean, this beautiful woman, courageous trans woman, hasn't played 1 second in the league and is already more popular than every single player in the league other than Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark can play basketball better than any other woman in modern history, and Sophie Cunningham did a meme where she pointed at things and automatically became more famous than everyone else in the league. Now, Enos Kanter, more famous than everyone else in the league. And this is jealousy. This is female. I think this is female on female jealousy here. Watch this reaction.
6-point basketball game.
Starts yelling from half court, by the way. This is what happens when you go to a
Chicago staying in it. Natasha Cloud. And right before the break, she started yelling at him from like half court. You can see it. Walk it in. Could just ignore it. You know, if you don't want somebody to get famous, the best thing you can do is just ignore them. If you don't want them to get attention, if you think they're there, attention seeking, wearing an XXXY shirt or wearing this woman shirt, wearing that shirt, if you don't want to get them attention, but they're too stupid to realize that you just ignore them, they can't. Because they know that they're living their lives and living their stupid league under false pretenses. So here is this character, Natasha Cloud, can't control herself. Just can't control herself. Starts yelling at midcourt. Natasha Cloud. And right before the break,
and then has to be held back. What is she gonna do? The guy's 1.5 feet taller than her and like 70 pounds heavier, probably more than that. What is she gonna jump him? She gonna jump in the stands and beat him up? What seriously? What was the plan here? I'm gonna go over and give him a piece of my mind. And he's gonna stand up for himself. Let me tell you something. If the roles were reversed and he was yelling at them and harassing them the entire game, number one, he would have been tossed immediately. But number two, they would have been crying after the game more than they already were. Oh my God, men just are there to abuse women. Sorry, women are there to abuse women. He identifies as a woman. Men are just there to abuse women and hurl insults. But he didn't start it. He showed up wearing a shirt that said woman. The definition of a woman is an adult human female. And then this thing starts yelling from half court, has a lot to say. How dare you be more famous than me? And he just responds. That's it. Just responds. And then they throw him out of the building. Who cares? The Monterey event supervisor got involved. You know it's bad when the Monterey event supervisor gets involved. Look at all these people are laughing. They're having a great time. But this is again, they're showing him stepping up. But she starts yelling from mid-court at him. And this is, by the way, I just realized the other day, because I don't care about the WNBA, that the quarters are only 10 minutes. You're paying money to go see women. They can't even play a full normal basketball quarter. Their quarters are even shortened. But she's yelling. And they're all so, and by the way, it looks like there's Caitlin Clark with a smirk on her face. They can't control themselves. I mean, not to say that women are predictable, but starts yelling from midcourt because she can't control herself. Because a man is wearing a shirt. Because he's a better basketball player than her in her own league. I believe that there's a lawsuit that they will have on their hands from Enos Kanter if he doesn't get drafted. Because if they draft women or anybody who identifies as a woman, and they don't draft him, and he's the highest qualified, I think that might be a nifty lawsuit. Joining me to talk about all of this today and more, it's my friend, Dallas Express CEO, Chris Putnam. How you doing, buddy?
Good, Tim. How are you?
Pretty good. This is the best connection you've ever had, and you're on a vacation home.
Hey, by the way, there's already men in the WNBA. Brittany Griner.
There's no... Okay, so can we just talk about this? There's no way that that's not a man.
It's totally a man.
That
like they told this narrative. She is one of these rare individuals that has both, male and female parts, I suppose. But like at the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't pass the sniff test.
There's a video, and I'm not going to pull it up here. I should do it. I'll prepare more next time we talk about it, because I have a feeling WNBA is going to be in the news for a little while. But there's a video of Brittany Griner playing basketball in like her backyard or something like that. Her backyard with no shirt on.
Yeah, no shirt on photos. Pretty famous.
And it's just like, you're a dude.
a deeper voice than me, wants her child to call her pops. Come on.
The WNBA has effectively become the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. I mean, and it's working for them, frankly. I mean, it's working for them right now. So it's so interesting to see where this ends up.
I think they end up failing. I mean, I think that's the whole game here is they're going to end up totally failing. I mean, they'll get subsidized by the NBA and that'll keep them afloat, but as a business, they aren't profitable. Now it is profitable if you say like Caitlin Clark jersey sales or something, or now Sophie Cunningham sales, which by the way, if I'm a WNBA player and I lean conservative, I'm going to come out right now and say that I'm conservative and protect women in sports because it's worth millions to do that.
I don't even think you have to declare yourself as conservative. Just talk about protecting women in sports. I don't know why that has to be a partisan issue at all. It's just a human logic issue at the end of the day.
Well, when you see the people who show up to the WNBA games, have you been to a WNBA game? You haven't been to one.
If I'd been in Dallas last week, I definitely would have taken that one in, but I was not, so I missed it. But I would have been at the theater, not for the feats of athleticism.
Yeah. No, that's where it is now. It's just, you're right. It's like WWE. It's like who's the villain, who's the good guy, and basically you only see Caitlin Clark games. By the way, you only see what is it, Indiana Fever? Is that the name of her team?
Well, and of course Sophie's on that team now as well, so it just makes for more attention.
Is there a chance that the Sophie and Caitlin Clark thing is staged for money?
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's literally become like the WWF, and it's working. So I think they have to play out this string right now. Legally, as you pointed out, it's going to come to a head. And it's going to be so interesting because they either have to acknowledge that there is no distinction physically or otherwise between men and women and allow the men to play, or they have to declare that no, a woman is a woman and that's who's going to be allowed to play. So it's got them in this incredibly ideological contusion.
Yes. I do know though that they've cleared up as far as I know the other day, they've cleared up that we can now use gay again to make fun of things and to mock things. It's important. It's important to know.
Like a while ago, but
here's by the way, this is what most of the WNBA fans look like. Somebody made a mock-up of Kim Jong-un if he was a woman. And that's what they look like. That's what your WNBA fans, that's what most of the women at most of these ICE protests and things look like too.
Or they're senior citizens reliving their 60s glory. We had that here in the Colorado resort town that once a month there is a people's march, against the oppression of living in $3,000 square foot homes and having no crime. And they have to, but it's important that they express themselves.
Do they really do that? Like once a month, they do a people's march to like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. It's a bunch of old white boomers, all of which are insanely wealthy in a town that has very little diversity, almost zero diversity as it relates to blacks or African Americans, no crime other than bike theft because bikes are like $10,000 here. And so, but they're oppressed. They're feeling the oppression.
If somebody steals a bike up in where you are in the very wealthy Colorado town, do they actually investigate it or do they go, oh no, that's equity, we need to let it go?
There was a arrest just the other day. Generally, it's people who come from out of town in vans and they buy all these very expensive bicycles and then part them out. Almost like auto theft works.
Oh, well, that's intriguing to me. I mean, that's the way it was. So, I one of my exes was from Vermont and we'd go up to Vermont all the time. And I think the whitest state in America is Vermont. And they would do that kind of like woke nonsense in the middle of nowhere where it's just like, trees, animals, nothing, as clean as it can get, nothing going on. There was drug crime in Burlington, Vermont, and there was a lot of crime uptick in Burlington, Vermont, also the most diverse city. And they do have an illegal immigration problem. They did from the northern border of Canada that nobody ever talked about. There was an uptick, I believe it was 500 or 600% in illegal crossings into Vermont, which nobody ever talked about. But for the most part, again, it was people who lived in these peaceful communities that had a lot of money, that were really old, and they just needed to act out because they've had it too good, and they need to pretend like there's some sort of issue.
Yeah, the big issue here is affordable housing. So they're railing about affordable housing while they live in their $3,000 square foot home. And Colorado is such an interesting state because, of course, it used to be red, then it went purple, and now it's considered deeply blue. It's actually not deeply blue. It's very much, segregated geographically between the Front Range, which, of course, are Denver and Boulder, which are incredibly blue, are Colorado Springs, which may be the second biggest Republican city next to maybe Fort Worth in the country. And then the entire Western Slope, when you're not in a resort town, is deeply conservative. I mean, there's Trump signs all over the place. Also far more rural, a lot less population. But we see it every day. Like in this particular county I'm in Southwest Colorado, it probably went along the lines of 70-30 Trump in the last election. You just go one county over and it's the inverse. So it's pretty.
It's a lot more drugs there too.
There are some drugs here.
Hey, listen, you've got a couple of more years of life experience on me while we're talking about all the problems with women. And I've had divorce light. You've had divorce real. This is a story that came out. I don't know if it's real or not, but I would imagine this is happening. So this was a story. Again, I think at least there's probably this happening somewhere. If this is real or not, I don't know. But my brother, whom gets married in whom is a real tell for me. I feel like that's an AI touch. My brother, whom gets married in 2 weeks, sent the entire family plus hers a group chat saying he is calling off the wedding because his fiance said she supported Lindsay Clancy on Friday. I've had this thought over and over and over again. If you have children with a woman who supports Lindsay Clancy and says that could be me, that should be grounds to get your children away from that woman.
This situation is madness. And I try to look at it through a broader lens. And I go back to Big Pharma. Big Pharma has literally sunk their hooks into every possible demographic. If you're a kid who doesn't pay attention to school, we're prescribing you Adderall. If you're a female that's struggling with depression or postpartum, we're prescribing you other psychotropics. And then, but we're gotten to the point now where we excuse it. And I lived through this, and sadly with somebody that was struggling with, a dependency on, drugs that in this case weren't even prescribed legally. And we encourage women to turn to that first. And we've basically gotten our entire society addicted, depending on whatever your perceived psychological malady is. You go to a therapist and the first thing they want to do is prescribe you drugs. And that's the problem in this country that I just don't think we talk enough about, because a lot of what we're seeing in terms of this manifestation of violence didn't happen before we got so many people on these drugs.
It's toxic femininity as well. These women who believe that they are perfect in every way because they've been told they're perfect in every way, and that men are the root cause of all problems in society, when in reality, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff that's come from them. I mean, I lived with somebody who had, I think, undiagnosed bipolar, very seriously had undiagnosed bipolar, and treated it with alcohol. And, they go to these like pop therapists first. That's the first problem, is that there are these therapists who are not actual registered psychologists. They go to these life coaches that are basically a big pyramid scheme. I talked about this with the ladies I had on my show on Thursday. It's these pop psychologists. So, they're like, basically they're just there to affirm all of their terrible decisions. That's the first move. So they affirm all their terrible decisions. Then when they realize there's a real problem, that's when the drugs start super rolling out. But it starts with psychologists who basically just say, oh, no, or not psychologists. I'm sorry, life coaches, because they're not even psychologists. They don't even have a degree. They're just people that are there to just say, you're wonderful in every way.
I'm going to restrain myself because, I happen to love this individual still. Who I was married to for almost 40 years, but it was just like that. Unregistered therapist that, just brought out all the therapy words, affirmed that everything they wanted to believe about the situation, and then encouraged all this complete madness. And, it's sad. And you see it routinely now. Like, I can't tell you how many, because as I was going through it, I personally got close to it, And a lot of the use cases, and people started coming out of the woodwork to tell me that they had experienced something similar. And it's another topic that we just don't talk about enough. And look, you know, a lot of these women, either as they go through having children or are approaching, you know, menopause, of course, there's massive hormonal changes. And, you know, we're dealing with it in an entirely destructive way, I think. I mean, it's destroying families.
I'm
It,
Buckway. Oh, go ahead.
it's extreme. And there's no, I think you hit the point right on the head. You know, now we're to the point of affirming this. Like, we're saying it's okay. You know, that's madness.
That's really where this is. When I see these women, and again, they're elderly women. They're women who look like the goth girl Kim Jong Un. They're these women who and like just the lack of logic, the complete skip. I have never in my life. So when they were talking about similar situations to this Lindsay Clancy thing, there's Chris Benoit, who was a pro wrestler, speaking of WWF years ago, who did a very similar thing. Offed his family with exercise equipment and then offed himself. Imagine if we said, "Oh, it was again." You can't say it in the opposite. Imagine if you said, "Oh, he was just stressed out from work and he was on, you know, medication or whatever," because they blame it a little bit on the medication too. But postpartum and medication, it's like, "Oh, well, this guy's stressed out from work and he had anxiety and because he was a world champion at one point in WWF or WWE." And probably steroids or whatever nutritional supplements. If we just blamed it on that, you'd be looked at like you were a lunatic.
Yeah. By the way, what happened to this Paris Hilton story? Like, it just kind of disappeared, and that was wild. Hopefully that guy's getting help, but it's probably similar. I'm not a female, obviously, but
Hold on, let me see. Because he is what happened? Did he harm himself? What happened there?
never saw that video. Oh, it was terribly disturbing. He's covered in blood, cutting himself up. It was just incredible. By the way, another one, Britney Spears.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff here even lately. Like, there was a reason that, you know, her father, you know, had responsibility for her for the longest time. And of course, all these complete social media idiots, these TikTok, by the way, let's talk about another destructive force on society. Like, not to mention the fact that it's a communist tool, but, you know, like, they're just dumbing us down. And like all these or not Taylor Swift in this case, sorry, Britney Spears fangirls, you know, just clamoring to free Britney. Well, they freed her. And like, it's frightening what's going on with that girl.
Well, I mean, originally she shaved her head and she was swinging stuff at people. Then she had the swords at one point that she was swinging around. And now, I mean, it's something's very off. And I think that to probably dig deeper, it's probably something that happened to her when she was coming up as a famous kid through the.
I'm sure terrible stuff. But my point is, we're now, you know, every time she posts one of these crazy TikTok videos that, you know, just shows clearly that she's got some serious psychological problem, everybody celebrates it. Just like this other case you're talking about.
Dude, the Lindsay Clancy thing makes literally no sense to me that women have taken her side in this. And then there was a woman on Fox. I'm not going to show the clip because I don't care to, and I don't think she needs to be promoted. But she was on defending Lindsay Clancy on Fox News and didn't even mention the magic is and the horrible thing is that they never mention any of the kids. They talk about this woman, all blah 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 stuff, you know, how wonderful she is. And what? Who put a baby in a microwave? I don't know. But the Lindsay Clancy stuff, they never mention the three kids ever. There's no sympathy for the three kids, only for the woman. Because the murderer is the actual victim there.
Correct. Again, and I'm going to rewind it. Apologies. Back to the drugs. And I'm not saying the drugs are exclusively the problem, but we do just have so many use cases. Whether it's teenage boys shooting up schools, right? I mean, the data behind how many of those individuals that perform these mass acts of violence are on psychotropics is just tremendous. And women with postpartum problems, women approaching menopause or in menopause, I mean, it's scary. The behavioral changes to the point that, you know, again, firsthand experience, people don't recognize them. They just become completely different people.
Okay, so for Quincy, who says talking about Britney Spears here. She put the baby in the microwave. I grokked it while you were talking, Chris, and she never put a baby in the microwave. So that is one thing that she didn't do. There are a lot of things she did do, but not that.
Yeah.
By the way, this is what Trump derangement syndrome looks like. Here's Drew, who that's probably not even a picture of him. Just talking about Trump has you worried, so you don't concentrate on his criminal organization. I mean, come on, man. Like, again, this is like the same nonsense screaming. It's wild to me that people have lost their minds like this because, again, I didn't like Biden. I didn't like Obama, but I didn't lose my mind on other people's live streams and things when they're talking about a different topic. How dare I not talk about the insanity that you go through? Here's somebody who's probably going to.
By the way, cognitive dissonance of that, of ignoring an actual criminal enterprise, which was the Biden family. You know, it's not even in a dispute. I don't know if you caught it the other day, but Bill Maher actually called out Hunter Biden on, the Ukrainian grift. And I think that's the first time he's ever been publicly called out because, of course, he's only typically going to go on, friendly other Trump hating outlets. And that's a tough answer for him. But by the way, is his art still worth $50,000 a painting?
No. It wasn't 50,000, my friend. It was at a zero. They were doing 300 to 500,000. It was more expensive than Picasso's. No, here the Hunter Biden thing. I'm curious because again, this happened with Gavin Newsom too, and I threw a flag at Charlie Kirk on this one too. When he had Gavin Newsom, when he sat down with Gavin Newsom on whatever podcast he had back in the day. I just don't. I don't understand, unless they're getting paid money, why a conservative has Hunter Biden on their podcast right now.
Well, I think
go ahead.
An opportunity to have a large audience, which it did.
There's a couple of them that are doing that, and I'm just like, I don't want to give the guy the platform. I don't want to give the guy the platform at all.
I'm okay giving them the platform if they're going to ask them the hard questions, and hold them to account, for their own actions and behavior.
Speaking of good platforms, here's the Dallas Express. This you really cracked open a can of worms. You and Carlos Tercios, who goes out, and I'm surprised he hasn't been beaten up yet. And I mean that in the best way. Like he just goes around all these lunatics. I'm not saying he should get beaten up. But what is happening here with this rideshare fraud? With it's a whole group of Islamists at the DFW airport.
It's basically a Muslim mafia that's controlling ride sharing at the airport. By the way, it's not unique to DFW airport. We also saw it at Love Field. We saw it during the World Cup. And this is, of course, just in North Texas. There's been other cases in the country. I can't think of them off the top of my head that have been investigated and that were successfully indicted. They use things like, I think they're called jammers. They have the ability to hack the apps. Like as soon as you pull in as a driver, as soon as you pull into DFW airport, there's some sort of geofencing that's applied where basically their people get all the rides. And then it goes off into all other sorts of tangents. For example, many of the drivers aren't necessarily here legally, and they cover up their license plate so they can avoid paying tolls. So it's currently being investigated by the DPS, by Texas Department of Public Safety, and we'll see where it goes. But I mean, it seems like every day there's a news story, out of DFW airport. It wasn't long there after that story broke, or we broke that story, that the foot washing station story came out. And of course, everybody pounced on that one.
Did we find out who was funding the $300,000 foot washing station?
Oh, well, that originally, this is part of our story. Originally, they denied that, that there was any public or airport funding being used for it. And then they came back and admitted that, in fact, the taxpayers paid for it effectively, or at least the commercialized entity of the airport paid for it.
Yeah. By the way, you can always see that I'm looking for action figures. Transformers. It should scare us. If you take a look at the totality of what's happening at these airports, when you take a look at, whether it be the rideshare thing, the foot washing, I mean, honestly, if you take a look at the level of staff that are wearing hijabs at airports, I mean, we're setting ourselves up.
Yeah, I totally agree. And people that still want to question this or to accuse somebody of bigotry or religious discrimination. They're missing the point altogether, and they are going to walk right in the punch, just like they did in Europe, just like the UK did, just like Minnesota did. This is all planned and purposeful, and it's also purposeful that's taking place here in North Texas. These people are, and that's, we could talk about H1 immigrant crimes as well, but it's all related. We're allowing a recent immigrant class to perpetuate just all manners of fraud on our society. And they know how to use our laws against us. They know how to use our Constitution against us, our freedoms against us. And every government entity, from the federal government, who shouldn't have let them in here in the first place, by the way, this many of them,
Yeah.
Who, frankly, I have a lot of familiarity with the Texas Attorney General's office, and there's only so many crimes an organization can cover. And they have to rise to this level of exposure before they even capture anybody's attention. And it's just an incredible amount of fraud and grip that's going on. And it's not a coincidence that's happening with these immigrant classes from these countries that we just haven't historically imported a lot of people from.
Yeah, it's pretty scary where this is going.
And if people don't understand Islamization playbook, I mean, it couldn't be clearer. I mean, it's like when Tony Romo calls the other team's plays in a broadcast, before they run the play, you can see the play coming. That's how we find these stories. We're like, here's the playbook in Minnesota. Where would they be running this playbook now in Texas? And we just follow their. And sure enough, it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's completely predictable. And it is to achieve political power, whether it's in a municipality, whether it's at a state level, and ultimately nationally. That is what they're trying to accomplish. They got away with it in the UK. It's done. Like, unless something very dramatic happens there, they've lost that country. And terribly disturbing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I want to talk about news organizations with you really quickly here. TMZ, by the way, I think a few people might know this, but I was the bureau chief for TMZ for 3 days in 2011. And they tanked the project. But TMZ is now fully in DC now. I would never work for them now. They would never hire me now. They're just another left-wing outlet that I think a lot of righties are playing into because they see it's TMZ and they want to trust it. But the other day, they're trying to slam Natalie Harp, of course, after who was it? Was it Mamdani, or was it? Oh no, it was John Ossoff made the comment in Georgia that implied that Donald Trump had a relationship with Natalie Harp. And now TMZ jumps on it and says Natalie Harp tweeted 150 times on January 6th in support of Donald Trump. Okay. So
this is another one that Bill Maher was taking Hunter Biden to account on the other day, because he, of course, they all get on the same talking points and, recite them, and it works. You tell somebody the same thing enough times and they believe it. And look, Natalie Harp does have a special relationship with Trump. I don't think it's a sexual relationship, but he's like his closest advisor, and they have a personal relationship. And it'd be no different than me texting you 5 times a day, and somebody gets a hold of it. And Bill Maher's like, look, we just have to find another enemy, don't we? We have to find another Trump-related thing to hate. Like, that's what this is all like. Why don't you get focused on what's really important, I
mean, that's this is, again, they're still running against Trump. That's all they have. I don't know what they're going to do when Donald Trump is gone. But I made the point here, and I've ratioed them. TMC's newsroom cheered when Charlie Kirk was murdered. And you got to remember that every time that you see them say something negative about President Trump, that this was a newsroom that conclusively cheered when Charlie Kirk was murdered. There are, I don't know if you saw the side-by-side videos where people have run the timestamps of when they claim that they were cheering for this mundane car chase that was not complete when they went crazy. They went crazy literally at the moment that it was announced that Charlie Kirk was dead.
And it's extraordinary. Nobody should be surprised at this point. The shame about TMZ is, if they use the model that they've been successful with, obviously on the West Coast and DC, it would be deeply entertaining, as long as you were going to apply that model to both parties. You know, I'm good with that. You want to expose a bunch of horrible stuff that Republicans are doing? Great. I don't necessarily want those people representing me anyway, but they won't. You know, as you pointed out, like I constantly, because I live this every single day, and I mean, we've had instances of reporters. Very notably, we signed a very well-known, well-respected sports writing legend here in DFW who was absolutely tortured by his media buddies on the left for doing nothing other than working with us. And he to his credit, he did it anyway, but they finally wore him down and he left. And you know, it's just the level that the left still influences, you know, the percentage of media. It's like it's 90%. 90%. It's exempt Fox from that. They're their own animal. But outside of that, it's a really tiny universe of anybody that's, forget right wing, just balanced.
Yeah.
You know, balance meaning, for me, balance is truth. That just tells the truth. We left the truth so long ago. And as it relates to reporting, it's just extraordinary. Everything now is political narrative. And that's true basically on the right as well at times, depending on this. And you know, and it's hard for people now with so many alternatives. And of course, the algorithm knows what you want to see and knows what you think and knows what you feel, and it's going to just continue to serve that up to you. And that's incredibly dangerous. Like, we really have to educate people on, you know, what truth is, how to find truth, where to look for it, and, you know, which outlets to trust. And that's difficult.
Well, the left really does do the whole trust game, and where they try to make themselves the exemplar for everything that you should be able to trust. I mean, again, it's communism 101.
But what's extraordinary about that is how many times do they have to lie? Well, the biggest story between 2000, after Trump's election, in 2016 to 2020, the biggest story every single year was what? Russiagate.
Mm-hmm.
Total lie. Not just a lie. They fabricated it. The DNC and the Clinton campaign made it up, and deep staters in the Justice Department amplified it and went along with it and consciously broke federal law. What was the biggest story then in 2020, after the other Trump election? And, you know, for 3 years, COVID. It was totally BS, as we know now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything about it. I mean, Fauci's disclosures in his diary, this other guy just recently got arrested that was his right-hand guy. I mean, it was all a lie. And who did it benefit?
Yeah.
Back to, but the point is, like, how can anybody trust them? Hunter Biden's laptop, pick a fake hate crime, Covington kids, Kyle Rittenhouse, who I know personally. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And the question is, even if I was a person on the right, and I don't want media that's not telling me the truth. I want the truth. I mean, I don't want the political narrative. I want what actually happened and what the impacts are. So to me, it's just extraordinary that people continue to trust them when they just lied over and over and over again. It's the same people, same.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it really is. But they stick with it. I mean, when you still see people wearing masks in public, and I just can't believe it still happens. You see that up there, right? You're in a beautiful part of the country. I'd imagine there's a couple of people still wear masks outside.
No. Much. In fact, what's unique about the place where I'm now is that COVID, you know, you would have thought that this would have been ground zero for people going crazy, and to a certain extent they did, but all they did was move everything outside. And then we had a gold rush here in Colorado, like property values just about everywhere that was a resort oriented town or, you know, in the mountains doubled overnight. So COVID in that respect was actually positive in a couple of respects. That respect for me here, but like, that's selfish. But it all, you know, I always refer back to the fact that it's what woke parents up in the state of, nationally, really. It woke parents up nationally. We saw firsthand what it did in the state of Texas as to what their children being taught, how they were being indoctrinated. And it led to some pretty positive things. So at least we got that out of it.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
nobody's missing that.
Before we get running here, because we can go early today. The midterm convention's coming up. It's in Dallas. I'm very excited to be partnering with you, and I mean partnering with you. I'm part of the organization. I'm very excited to be there with you, and of course for America and everybody else. live at the midterm convention. I think we're gonna have a lot of VIPs dropping by. We're gonna have a good time there, right?
It's going to be great. We have a number of events going on. Some are private, some will be public. We're going to be announcing all of them in the next week or so. But yeah, Tim, you will be doing a lot of interviews for us right there from the convention. You know, we've got a bunch of outstanding venues, and we've been working with the RNC on, you know, some ancillary events that hopefully will attract the right people. And of course, there's national protest plans, so that'll be fun as well.
Yeah, that'll be super neat.
That's for sure.
I'm just glad I'm going to be hanging out with you most of the weekend because it's going to be or week or whenever it is. I don't even know what days of the weekend. I know the dates. I just know I have the dates free.
It's actually Wednesday, Thursday. So most of the convention will be held anywhere from Tuesday night on the 8th through the 10th. It hasn't been announced yet. The schedule hasn't been published, but it seems like, I mean, there's primetime blocks held both the 9th and the 10th, and it's totally expected that the president will be speaking live on the 10th.
Well, either way, I'm going to be stuck in my very nice VIP Dallas Express booth with a fantastic chef and drinks. I'll be good either way. And watching from across the street, and then we'll live stream things as they come through, obviously, and then we'll have people come through and have commentary on stuff as that happens. But I'm looking forward to it, doing these 2 marathon live streams with you, 12 hours, probably 2 days in a row. Going to be a good time. Chris Putnam, CEO of the Dallas Express. Obviously, you know where to go to the Dallas Express. And I need to write more stuff for you guys. I owe you like a couple of weeks of articles here.
Right on. We'll take it all.
Yep. All right, man. Well, thanks for being here. And as always, guys, follow it's Dallas X CEO for Chris. It is For America for everything else. And dude, you're looking good, by the way. You need more vacations. You actually look tan and like svelte and the whole fucking thing.
The air here is very clean, and you walk a lot.
One day I'll take your. I'm coming up. I promise. In October I'll be there. All right, dude. Good seeing you. And